Right, hello everyone, and welcome to the Diesel Arsenal channel. Um, Thanks very much for tuning in. And tonight I'm going to be talking to you about who murdered Jill Dando. But before I do that, I'm just going to go through and do what Diesel always does and say a big hello to everyone in the chat. So we've got Arsenal Forever, Early Doors Football TV. Um, we've got Joanne Smith, we've got Tahib Hussain, and we've got Pepsi Pack, and we've got who else have we got in here? I think that's all, everyone. Right, okay, so let's quickly, before I get started, I'm just going to go through all the chats that are here, and because there's quite a few. See, the first one from Arsenal Forever saying, "Big up, Warren. Looking forward to this. Good, mate. I hope it's going to be a good show. I hope you enjoy it. And thanks for coming and watching." And Early Doors Football TV is here, and he's saying, "Big up, Arsenal Forever." And Arsenal Forever saying, "Big up, Early Doors." And Joanne Smith saying, "Hello, tonsillitis Joe here." Well, Joe, I hope you're starting to feel better, and I hope you get rid of that tonsillitis really soon. I'm sorry to hear about that, mate. And Early Doors says, "Hi, Joanne. Oh dear, are you eating toast to help it?" I don't know. Did that? Does that help? I don't know. I remember once I knew someone who had it, and they got told to eat ice cream, but I don't know if that helps or not. And Taib says, "Hi, Early Doors." And Early Doors says, "Big up, Taib." And Taib says, "Hi, Joanne." And Taib says, "Early Doors, you're a legend, mate." He certainly is. And anyone who hasn't done so already, please go and subscribe to Early Doors Football TV. Top bloke. And he's done some great content. And Taib says, "Hi, Joanne." Sorry, I've done that one already. And Early Doors Football TV says, "Thanks, Taib. Always loved your jokes." Yeah, exactly. His jokes are legendary. Absolutely superb. Right, now we come to Pepsi Pack, and he's saying, off topic, fed up with signing Chelsea rejects and overbidding on Rice, who is not worth the price tag. This club is taking huge steps backwards. Diesel needs to rant about this, and Terry needs finding. Right, now, listen, before I came on, I did have a quick chat with Diesel, and he did tell me that he's going to be doing the mother of all rants about this club very soon. So keep your eyes peeled, because it is coming, and he's going to really go into the club big time. So don't worry about that. It is coming. And talking of rants about the club, tomorrow I'm going to be uploading a video about the Cronkies and the way that I believe they're mismanaging the club. So keep your eyes open for that. Taib says, "Early Doors, thank me, man. I'd just like to have some banter in the chats." Mate, you are legendary with your comments, Taib, honestly. Early Doors Football TV says, "Taib, this is Tony Blackwell, Terry's brother-in-law. So Early Doors is my YouTube channel." Fair play, Tony. I did know that, but I didn't know if you were happy for other people to know that. So fair play to you, Tony. And always good to have banter, says Early Doors Football TV. And big up Pepsi Pack. Taib Hussain says, "Cool, bro. I'll remember that." And what else we got here? Pepsi Pack, hello, Early Doors. And Early Doors says, "Haven't seen Terry for a while now." No, I bet you haven't, Tony. I'm pretty sure that you haven't. And that doesn't surprise me. Taib says, "If you notice this notice, you will notice that this notice is not worth noticing." There you go. Taib is in top form as usual. Early Doors, I didn't see it, Taib. So yeah, exactly. He didn't notice it, Taib. He didn't notice the notice. they was telling him not to worry about not noticing the notice. So there you go. Laugh out loud, Tony, says Taib. And Pepsi Pack, here we go. Early Hurley Doors says, good evening, Warren. And Early Doors says, ice cream or port and brandy helps. Lovely. Lovely. That sounds absolutely wonderful. What about ice cream and port and brandy together? Joanne Smith says, yeah, I managed some spaghetti hoops on toast today. Darren Sullivan says, evening, Warren, 2468 is never too late. Mick Arteta going to get sacked tonight. Well, let's hope so, mate. I'm not sure he will, but still, nice to see you anyway, Darren. And Early Doors says, evening at Darren. Warren, good to see you, mate, and good to see you, everyone else in the chat as well. Darren says, Early Doors, Taib, and all in the chat. Go and check out Darren's Instagram page as well. It's absolutely brilliant. The things that he uploads are absolutely hilarious. Joanne Smith said, I told Carl they signed that Chelsea reject to walk win woof woof. Oh dear. Oh no. Yeah, maybe. Warren, you know I love your fireworks. Yeah, unfortunately they're not on Diesel's channel, so I can't play them. Otherwise, I'd do a special one just for you, Tony. Ange Beer says, "Hey, good evening, Warren, and everyone in the chat." Hi, Ange. I don't think I've seen you before, so welcome to the chat. I hope you're okay. And Joanne Smith says, "Terence is rubbing sun cream on Arteta. Where he's rubbing it is another matter." Yeah, I think we'll leave that. Actually, not talk about that one. Grant Roberts says, "Evening, Warren. I hope you're well." Yeah, I'm great, mate. Thanks very much. Pepsi Pack says, as a kid, I thought Lady Diana was related to Jill Dando as they look similar. Yeah, they do, actually. That's true. They do look similar. Joanne Smith says, I've had ice cream. My diet has gone out the window at the moment. Oh, well, never mind. You need to concentrate on getting the tonsillitis dealt with, mate. Don't worry about that. So you can go back on the diet when you sort out the tonsillitis, can't you? Early Doors says, evening, Grant McRoberts. And Long-Haired Yeti's in the chat. Hi, Long-Haired Yeti. How are you? Evening, bro. Weird one, this one. When I heard about it, my spider sense was going wild. Yeah, it is pretty mad, I'm telling you. Evening, Ange Bear. Evening, Early Doors, says Ange Bear. Big up, Long-Haired Yeti. And Mike England's in the chat as well. Nice to see you, Mike. Hope you're good. Good evening to all of you. It's lovely to see everyone in the chat. And so let's get on with the show, shall we? So, what we're going to talk about tonight in this show is I'm going to tell you about Jill Dando's early life, her career, her personal life, and how she was murdered, the investigation. I'm going to talk a little bit about Barry George, the lines of inquiry, the Yugoslav connection, Jill Dando's legacy, gangland killing theory, a stalker stroke obsessive fan theory, mistaken identity theory, other theories, and my thoughts. So that's what I'm going to be looking at tonight. Right, so for the first time tonight, and I'll be mentioning this a few times, if you haven't already, please make sure you subscribe to the guy who's kindly allowed me to do this show for you tonight, Mr. Diesel Arsenal. Please make sure you put a like on the video for him as well. And like I say, please make sure you subscribe to his channel. Also, please subscribe to my channel, Warren's Team Talk. And also make sure you can check out some of my other content as well. I do a lot of general football content. I'm doing a lot at the moment about the Cronkies and the situation at Arsenal because I'm an Arsenal fan and there's a lot of videos on there about Arsenal. So come and check it out, and I hope that you enjoy it. So let's move on. So Jill Dando, she was born at Ashcombe House Maternity Home in Weston-super-Mare, Somerset, on the 9th of November 1961, and she was educated in Weston-super-Mare, and then she was raised as a Baptist and remained a devout follower of that arm of the religion. She was then went on to study journalism at Cardiff Metropolitan University. Dando's first job was as a trainee reporter for the local weekly newspaper, the Western Mercury, where her father and brother worked. And after a number of years working in the southwest, what happened there? I hate it when it does that. Sorry, guys. Might be a sec. So, after a number of years working in the southwest of England in a variety of different media related roles, she moved to national television in London in the early part of 1988 to present BBC television news, and she quickly became an extremely popular and high profile British media personality. And in 1997, she became BBC Personality of the Year. So let's move on. Right, okay, so before we go any further, let's and we Early Doors Football TV says good evening to my England, good to see you. And Jack Weston is in the chat. Is that hot? I'm sweating like Jill Dando looking for her front door key. Okay. Oh, I get it now. Yeah, it's that hot. I'm sweating like Jill Dando looking for her front door key. And Longhaired Yeti says, big up Early Doors Football TV. Joanne Smith, Diana, Jill, and Sophie Wessex look the same. They do look very, very similar, but there's another one which I'll be talking about later as well. Long-haired Yeti, she knew too much and she was pushing it. Darren Sullivan says, looking forward to seeing Diesel's rant. Yeah, so am I, mate. My England thought she was the spitting image of Diana. She is very similar, I have to say. She really is. And Darren says, evening, long-haired Yeti. Clough is king. Yeah, I agree with that as well, Darren. And long-haired Yeti says it wouldn't be the first time the BBC took out someone who didn't follow their narrative. Certainly wouldn't be, that's for sure. So anyway, Dando presented the BBC television programme Breakfast Time, Breakfast News, the BBC 1 o'clock news, the 6 o'clock news, the travel programme Holiday, and the crime appeal series Crime Watch from 1995 until her death, and occasionally Songs of Praise. In 1994, she moved to Fulham in southwest London, and on the 25th of April 1999, Dando presented the first episode of Antiques Inspectors. She was scheduled to present the 6 o'clock news on the evening of her death on the 26th of April 1999. And then she was also featured on the front cover of the Radio Times magazine from the 24th of April to the 30th of April. And Dando was also booked to host the British Academy Television Awards in 1999. alongside Michael Parkinson at the Grosvenor House Hotel on the 9th of May. And then on the 5th of September, BBC One, on the 5th of September, BBC One resumed airing Antiques Inspectors, the final series to be recorded by Dando. The series had made its debut on the 25th of April, with filming of the final episode completed 2 days before that. The programme was subsequently cancelled following her death, though, but it was decided later in the year that it should be aired as a tribute to Dando, and the final episode aired on the 24th of April. Now, that image I just showed you there, it's a lot of people speculated that image on the front page of the Radio Times with her in leather clothing may have pushed a obsessed fan over the edge, and it could have led to them not being able to cope any longer and deciding to take her out. But whether that's true or not, I don't know. So long-haired Yeti says Rick Mail for one, and yeah, he's talking about people the BBC took out. And Mike England says, "Who will ever forget Lord Flashheart?" Woof woof, exactly. Captain Blackadder. And long-haired Yeti 187 says, "Darren, repeat, man. You called me long-haired Clough before, and I couldn't have any higher respect." Well, exactly. He was an absolute legend, mate, Cluffy. Early Doors Football TV. Mike, is that a canoe in my pants, or am I happy to see you? Exactly. And long-haired Yeti, Mike England loved him. So, okay, let's move on. And we'll talk about Jill Dando's personal life now. So from 1989 to 1996, Dando dated BBC executive Bob Wheaton, who's on the far left. And then she had a brief relationship with National Park warden Simon Basil. And then in December, who's the guy in the middle? And then in December 1997, Dando met gynecologist Alan Farthing, who was separated at the time and would later go on to be the Queen Elizabeth II's personal physician after she went on a blind date with Farthing, which was set up by a mutual friend. On the 31st of January 1991, a couple of months after Farthing's divorce was finalised, Dando and Farthing announced that they were engaged, and their wedding was set to take place on the 25th of September. So Jill Dando's cousin, when interviewed by the Daily Mirror newspaper, was reported as saying that when she was looking at buying a property that she would eventually buy and move into, and was murdered at on the 26th of April 1999 in Fulham in southwest London, that she had warned Dando that it would be better to go for a gated complex with better security. And this is the property that she is talking about. And as you can see, it's just a normal, standard, run-of-the-mill house in a suburban street. And she also said to Jill that Jill was ridiculously naive about her security. She says, when she went for a house in Gowan Avenue, I remember saying to her, "Do you really want to do this? You are living on your own. Wouldn't you be better off with a smart apartment where you have a security guard?" She also allegedly challenged her about her driving around in a soft-top car in London. I said it wasn't a good idea because she was so well known. but I think perhaps she hadn't seen enough to realise that nasty things can happen, and sadly it did to her. By April 1999, Jill Dando lived in Fulham, southwest London, but she did not visit the property frequently, and she was in the process of selling it. So let's move on. So let's talk about the murder. So Jill Dando's death sparked a high-profile hunt for her killer and became one of the most notorious murders in British criminal history. On the morning of the 26th of April 1999, 37-year-old Jill Dando left her fiance Farthing's home in Chiswick to return alone to her home in Fulham by car. When she arrived back at her property in Fulham, she parked up outside and walked the short distance between her car and her front door, and she reached her front door about 11:32. As she was about to put the keys in the lock to open the front door of her home in Fulham, she was grabbed from behind. With his right arm, the assailant held her and forced her to the ground so that her face was almost touching the tiled step of the porch, and then with his left hand, he fired a single shot at her left temple, killing her instantly. The bullet entered her head just above her ear, parallel to the ground, then came out of the right side of her head. So let's just have a quick look and see what's going on in the chat. And then we've got Longhaired Yet. He said, I grew up on Clough and Rick Mel. I loved them both. Me too, buddy. Pepsi Pack says, all punching. And Darren says, I reckon Barry George was guilty but got off on a technicality, but I am willing to be convinced otherwise. Savile Hitman theories, I'm all ears. Yeah, well, we'll see, mate. Steve RFC, big up. Early Doors Football TV, big up Steve RFC. Steve RFC saying 19 likes. Thanks very much for letting me know, Steve. Yeah, please, anyone who's in here or watching this, and if you haven't hit that like button yet, please make sure you do. It really, really help us out with the what we do for these shows. And Longhaired Yeti says Savile and the fact they let him carry on was disgusting. And then his best mate Esther Ransom runs a child line. Yeah, I know, man. Big up Early Doors Football, says Steve RFC. Ronan O'Donnell says, you are a creep. What, me? Sorry, man. I didn't realise I was being creepy. But nice to see you, Ronan. And thanks for coming to watch the show. I hope you enjoy it. Longhaired Yet, he says, everyone in this country should be burning that pedo factory down. Yeah, 100%. My England, Johnny Rotten tried to disguise Savile and was hushed up by the BBC. Yeah, he was. He was, and he got silenced. He did, and the rumour is that is why, the real reason why the Sex Pistols album got banned wasn't because God Save the Queen one, I think it was right, or Never Mind the Bollocks, whatever it was called, it got banned, and it wasn't because of the people found it offensive. It was because of what he said about Jimmy Savile. Nick X Core 74 says Jill knew too much about Savile and was going to expose the BBC as he covered up his degenerate behaviour. I wouldn't surprise me, mate. Early Doors says long-haired Yeti Savile was BBC's golden boy, massively protected by them. And Steve RFC says it's my birthday tomorrow. I'll be 33 years old. I will go to Pizza Hut in Hamilton. Well, I hope you enjoy it, mate, and I hope you have a great time. And happy birthday to you for tomorrow, Steve. You're a top man, and I hope you have a great, great time. Alien Attic says, big up Warren and the chat. sorry, Alanatic, not Alienatic, Alanatic. Big up, Warren, and the chat. Big up to you, Alan. And Longhead Yeti says, telling the truth means you're a creep. This comes from gutless morons that don't have the balls to act on it. 100%, mate. Early doors, happy birthday, Steve RFC. Yeah. Big up, Alan Attic says early doors. Yeah, 100%. Longhead, yeah, he says early doors football TV, spot on. Yeah, I completely agree with what he said, 100%. Right, so let's get back into it. Now, her body, Jill Dando's body was discovered by a neighbour approximately 14 minutes after she'd been shot, and the police were called at 11:47. And she was then taken to the nearby Charing Cross Hospital, where she was declared dead on arrival at 13:03 British Standard Time. And then a forensic study indicated that Dando had been shot by a bullet from a 9mm short caliber semi-automatic pistol, with the gun pressed against her head at the moment of the shot. And it has also been reported that the cartridge appeared to have been subject to workshop modification, possibly to reduce its charge. Jill Dando's next door neighbour heard a scream from her and was reported as saying, I thought it was someone surprising somebody, but he apparently heard no gunshot. It has also been reported that the next door neighbour looked out of his front window and, while not realising what had happened, made the only certain sighting of the killer. Apparently, he described the person as being a 6 foot tall, 183 centimetres white man aged around 40, walking away from Dando's house. The following facts surrounding the murder of Jill Dando cannot be contested by any rational individual. The murder scene was comprehensively compromised by paramedics and their concern to save Jill Dando. Thereafter, there was little forensic evidence other than a casing from the bullet, and later the bullet itself. There were witnesses who had seen a lone man waiting and heard a scream, and had seen the lone man walking hurriedly away. There could be little doubt that whoever he was the culprit. There was no obvious motive. The inquiry was almost immediately overwhelmed by the information, much of it seemingly of little or no evidential value, but all of which some thousand lines of inquiry had to be evaluated. So, yeah, please, everyone, if you're watching this, please make sure you hit that like button for Diesel. That's the big thumbs up button. And also, please make sure you subscribe to Diesel's channel and make sure you check out the rest of his content. The guy does absolutely fantastic content. And when he goes on one, he can be going 2, 3, or even more hours at a time. And I rate his streams. I really do. I love the way he goes on. He doesn't have a script. He just sits and says whatever's on his mind. And he's going to be doing a massive rant soon about Arsenal. He's a massive Arsenal fan, hence the reason his channel's called Diesel Arsenal. He talks about Arsenal and he talks about life in general. And he gets me coming on here talking about things to do with the paranormal and also with conspiracy theories and stuff like that. So big up to Diesel for letting me do that, because it's an absolute pleasure to do it for him. I love doing it. I love talking about this stuff. And this is the only place that I talk about these things. So also, please make sure you subscribe to my channel, Warren's Team Talk. I do a lot of general football videos on there. At the moment, my main focus is on the Cronkies, and I'm trying to get a movement going for all Arsenal fans to get the Cronkies out of the club. I know I've got a huge task on my hand, but we have to try. We really do, because I'm just not convinced they're serious. But yeah, that's just my opinion. I'm just some little YouTuber who probably haven't got a clue what he's talking about with regards to that. But yeah, I do lots of things. I do videos about all different things to do with football. So come and check me out. Give me a sub. Put a thumbs up on the videos, stuff like that, and share it around as well if you don't mind. That'd be absolutely wonderful if you could do that. And yeah, so let's get back into it. And before we do, let's look at what's going on in the chat. Ange Beer says, happy birthday, Steve RFC. It's good. Lovely to see that Steve RFC is getting a lot of love in the chat. Pepsi Pack says, I used to like the McDonald's parties with Ronald. Yes, exactly. I remember them. Long Edge Yeti says, happy birthday for tomorrow, Steve. Alan Attic says, happy birthday, Steve. And Long Edge Yeti says, it's 100% a hit. How people don't see it is beyond me. Too many cowards in this country who just post lest we forget. 100%, you ain't getting an argument out of me. Nick Core 74 says MI5 or MI6. When I was researching this, I saw absolutely nothing to do with them in what I looked at. Doesn't mean to say that they didn't have something to do with it. I just never saw anything linking them or anyone putting a case forward that it was them. So yeah, if you know something, mate, please put a comment in the chat or put it in the put a comment in after the show's finished. I would love to hear about it. Early Doors says Early Doors Early Doors Football 100% says, sorry, Early Doors Football says 100% Longhead Yeti. Nick Core 74 says Dr. David Kelly was bumped off by UK intelligence services too. If you ask me, Tony Blair definitely knows who killed him. I wouldn't be surprised, mate. I'm not at all. The people who run this country, they're dodgy as they come, in my opinion. Diesel is awesome. Had the pleasure of being on a stream with him. Mate, he's a legend. He really is. Mike England says, I rate Diesel very, very highly. And me too, buddy. He's an absolute legend, the fella. And his streams are always really entertaining. And you're sitting there and you're watching it for 2-3 hours and it just feels like he's only been talking like 5 minutes. It's superb. Early Doors Football says he's right, Mike. He's a real one. He 100% is a real one. That's absolutely true. Long Edge Yeti says, I always speak facts on my stream. What's the point of having a voice if you don't use it? Yeah, exactly. Please, people as well, go and subscribe to the Longhead Yeti's channel. As you can see from his icon or picture or logo, whatever you want to call it, he's a massive Notts Forest fan and he knows what he's talking about. So please make sure you go and give him a sub. Early Doors Football says exactly that, you long-haired Yeti. Freedom of speech. I'm just starting out on the YouTube world, but I'll talk about all football, not just West Ham, who is my team. Good. I'm glad to hear it, mate. Long-haired Yeti said paid gangster hit, I would say. Yeah, I'll look at that as well. Tave says, Warren, what was the motive behind Jill Dando's murder? Do you have an opinion? Yeah, I do, and I'll be talking about that later. So keep your eyes open and your ears open, and you'll hear all about it. Mike says, Mike England says Kelly was snuffed out, defo. Yeah, probably 100%, mate. Longhead Yeti says Taib digging up too much truth, I would say. Probably upset someone somewhere along the line, that's for sure. Ange Beer says looks like was a hit job. Steve RFC not heard anything about this. I checked that she was only 37. This was 1999, a long time ago. Yeah, it was, man. Early Doors said, "I think it might be more deep than you think. Possibly Russian mafia, as she had insulted them, so possibly a hitman took her out, considering the style of how she was murdered." Taib says, "Tony, that's interesting." Long-haired Yeti, Early Doors Football TV, subbed, bro. Excellent stuff. That's what I want to see. Nick X Core 74. The establishment don't like people like us who dare to question things and can think independently. No, they don't, mate. That's 100% true. Long haired Yeti, thanks, bro. Already sub to you. And Pepsi Pack has to have something to do with Crime Watch. Can't see it being over a bad holiday review. Yeah, probably not. That's pretty. That's a pretty excellent summary of it, I'd say. Anyway, so the investigation. Dando's status as a well-known public figure had brought her into contact with thousands of people, and she was known to millions. And after the murder, there was intense media coverage and huge speculation regarding the motive for her murder. Right, hold on. Sorry, guys. Right, so an investigation by the Metropolitan Police named Operation Oxborough would become the Met's biggest murder inquiry and the largest criminal investigation since the hunt for the Yorkshire Ripper. But sadly, it proved fruitless for over a year. Early on in the investigation, Detective Chief Inspector Hamish Campbell, the man leading the murder hunt, was quoted as saying, "Her career must be looked at, but I do not consider it to be of equal importance to her private life. We have many positive leads. All of these leads were thoroughly investigated, and when they turned up nothing, all the men who had romances with Miss Dando were cleared. It was an allegedly besotted Russian crime lord who had been the subject of speculation that he had ordered the Dando's killing because she had rejected his advancing with filming for the holiday program in Cyprus. So there you go. It might be because of a holiday program. Who knows? No credible evidence has ever emerged to suggest that anyone romantically linked to Miss Dando had anything to do with the murder. And within 6 months, the murder investigation team had spoken to more than 2,500 people and taken more than 1,000 statements. Right, so let's move on. So now we come to this fella, Barry George. After a year of having made little progress, the police concentrated their attention on Barry George after he was mentioned to police in the tip-off the day after Jill Dando's murder. He's now 63, and at the time, he lived about half a mile from Dando's house, and to date remains the only person ever to be put on trial for Jill Dando's murder. Barry George had a history of stalking women, sexual offences, and other antisocial and attention-seeking behaviour, but it took police 10 months to seriously consider him as a suspect. And then he was put under surveillance and arrested on the 25th of May 2000 and charged with Dando's murder on the 28th of May. It has been suggested that one possible explanation for the delay in the police considering Barry George was because of the amount of media coverage which produced a huge amount of tips and suggestions, which only a very few were useful. So, when detectives did get around to giving Barry George a proper look, he started to fit the psychological profile provided in May 1999 by a forensic criminal psychologist, Dr. Adrian West, who had urged police to look for an obsessive loner. Mr. George had previous convictions for attempted rape and indecent assault, as well as a number of complaints of having been received from women who had claimed that he had stalked them. On one occasion in the early 1980s, he was found hiding in the bushes at Kensington Palace, wearing khaki, carrying a knife and a length of rope. He was a fantasist who had falsely claimed to be named Paul Gadd before the singer, better known as Gary Glitter, was exposed as a paedophile, or Barry Balsara, the cousin of Queen's lead singer Freddie Mercury. And when police searched Mr. George's flat, they found many photographs of local women and no fewer than 4 copies of the Jill Dando memorial issue of the BBC's in-house magazine Ariel. And in the pocket of Mr. George's overcoat, a forensic scientist found a tiny particle which he said could be firearms residue from the gun used to kill Jill Dando. George was tried at the Old Bailey and convicted on the 2nd July 2001. He was sentenced to life imprisonment. However, concern about this conviction was widespread on the basis that the case against George appeared to be thin. And during Barry George's trial, his barrister Michael Mansfield told the court that the National Criminal Intelligence Service had a dossier suggesting that her killing was in retaliation for the NATO bombing of the radio television of Serbia headquarters. Right, so before we go any further, let's have a quick look at these chats. Where are we? Longhead Yeti says, early doors, thanks, I appreciate it. Arsenal Forever says, Longhead Yeti, just subscribe to your channel. And Longhead Yeti says, big up, man, real one to Arsenal Forever. Longhead Yeti says, do you have a channel, Arsenal Forever? And Longhead Yeti says, how do we see these things, but not many do? Are we higher intelligence, or is it just that we care and they don't? I don't know. Maybe it's because they do see it, but they just don't want to talk about it or act upon it. Daniel Carty says, evening, Diesel, mate. Long time. I hope you've been good, mate. Daniel, my name's Warren. Diesel's not here at the minute. I'm doing this for Diesel. I come on here on a regular basis now, doing shows about paranormal and conspiracy theories for him. So, yeah, I'm not Diesel, but lovely to see you, Daniel. I hope you're well, and thanks for tuning in. Dominic Bucknor says, keep these documentaries coming through the summer, Diesel. Yeah, I'm sure he will have me doing these. I'm going to be doing a few of them. I can't do them all the time because they do take a lot of research and it takes quite a long time, but I'll do them as often as I can. I've got another interesting one coming up soon, but I'm not sure yet which one it's going to be. I'm going to make a decision in the next 2 days, and then I'll let Diesel know. Arsenal Forever says, Younghead Yeti, no, mate, but thinking about doing my own channel soon, but I might bottle it like Arsenal did in the title race. Arsenal Forever, you definitely should, man. And any support that I can give you to do it, I definitely will. Steve RC I enjoy Euro qualifiers. I think Scotland will make Euros. Just 2 more wins guarantees it, or beat Norway at home, mate. I think we're going to do it. I do 100%, man. Um, I'll be absolutely delighted if that happens. I just hope that this time, when we get to the finals, that we make a better fist of it than the last one. Barry George was about sex crimes, so why would he just shoot that? Why would he just shoot? And that makes no sense. That's what I think too, Long Edge Yeti. Early doors TV, Arsenal forever. Do it. You say some good things, you know others will support you as I get support. Yeah, 100%. And there's one sitting here right now. I will support you as well, mate. Long Edge Yeti, Arsenal forever. Do it, man. I'll follow you. See, look all this support you're getting in the chat. Arsenal forever. We need more like you, mate. We need people like you, Arsenal forever. And Early Doors Football TV says, Long Edge, yeah, exactly. Daniel Carty, hi Ron, good mate. Hi Ron, mate, good show. Thank you, Daniel Carty. Lovely. Thank you very much. That's very kind. Okay. Let's move on. So, 2 appeals were unsuccessful, but after a discredited forensic evidence was excluded from the prosecution's case, Georgie's third appeal succeeded in November 2007, and the original conviction was quashed, and a second trial lasting 8 weeks ended in Georgie's acquittal on the 1st of August 2008. After Georgie's acquittal, some newspapers published articles which appeared to suggest that he was guilty of the Dando murder and other offences against women. And then in December 2009, George accepted substantial damages from News Group newspaper over articles in The Sun and the News of the World, following a libel action at the High Court. Crime Watch reconstructed Jill Dando's murder in an attempt to aid the police in the search for a killer. After Barry George was charged with the murder but acquitted, Crime Watch made no further appeals for information concerning the case. It's interesting, isn't it? So, lines of inquiry. The lines of inquiry explored in the police investigation included theories that a jealous ex-boyfriend or an unknown lover had killed Dando. This was quickly ruled out by the detectives who interviewed all Dando's friends and acquaintances and checked her phone calls. A belief that somebody had hired an assassin to murder Dando as revenge for they're being convicted as a result of evidence gathered by Crime Watch viewers. After exhaustive inquiries, this was also ruled out by detectives. Various theories relating to Bosnian Serb or Yugoslav groups in retaliation for NATO's actions against media outlets and their appeals for aid during the Yugoslav wars. The possibility that a deranged fan may have killed Dando after she had rejected her approaches. Dando's brother, Nigel, informed detectives that she had become concerned by some guy pestering her in the few days before her death, but this was ruled out by detectives. A case of mistaken identity. This was judged unlikely, given that the killing took place on the front doorstep of Dando's own home. Following the Jimmy Savile sexual abuse scandal, a claim was made that Dando had invested a paedophile ring at the BBC during the mid-1990s and had handed a dossier containing her findings to BBC management, purportedly prompting a revenge attack. The BBC said it had seen no evidence to support the claim. Actions taken by a professional rival or business partner also had to be considered. Her agent, John Roseman, stated that he had been interviewed as a suspect by the police. So, so the original police investigation had explored the possibility of a contract killing. However, since Dando was living with her fiance and was only rarely visiting her Fulham residence, it was considered unlikely that a professional assassin would have been sufficiently well informed about Dando's movements to have known at what time she was going to be there. And CCTV evidence of Dando's last journey, mainly security video recordings from the Kings Mall shopping centre in Hammersmith, which she visited on her way to Fulham, did not show any sign of her being followed. Now, I know Hammersmith, and you can see in the picture there it says Kings Mall. The entrance to the shopping centre is just up the road there, and you can probably see in the middle of the picture, just below the sign where it says Kings Mall, there's like two white bits. The entrance is just off to the left, off to the right there, just below where that sign is. So yeah. Now, on the night of her death, Dando's BBC colleague Nick Ross said on Newsnight that retaliatory attacks by criminals against police, lawyers, and judges were almost unknown in the UK. Forensic examination of the cartridge case and bullet recovered from the scene of the attack suggested that the weapon had been the result of a workshop conversion of a replica or decommissioned gun. Right, before we go any further, please, guys, make sure you subscribe to the Diesel Arsenal channel. The guy's an absolute legend. It's a top man. He does brilliant content. And when he does a stream, it can go on for 2, 3, 4 hours. He's unbelievable. The man has no script, not like me. I'm sitting here reading this off a Word document that I typed up before I went live, so I wouldn't forget anything because my memory's appalling. But Diesel, he's able to do. He just talks from the heart and says what he thinks. Like I say, he has no script, and he does brilliant content. He talks about Arsenal. He talks about life in general, and he has me coming. He does things about TV as well because he's a massive TV buff. And he has me coming on talking about the paranormal and conspiracy theories as well. And I'm really grateful to him for letting me do this because I love doing it for him. I really do. Also, please make sure you subscribe to my channel, Warren's Team Talk. Please also, guys, don't forget to put a like on this video. It's really important that you do that for us. So please come and check out my channel as well. Please check out some of my videos. I do a lot of videos about football in general, about Arsenal because that's my team, and it's all sorts of different interesting things. So yeah, please come and check it out and leave a comment or two, and you will see me going off the deep end a few times, that's for sure. So let's move on. And it was argued that a professional assassin would not use such a poor quality weapon, though. I'm talking about the fact that there was a lot of suggestions that it was a gun had been tampered with and it was a workshop conversion of a replica or decommissioned gun. But like they said, it was argued that a professional assassin would not use such a poor quality weapon. So before we go any further, let's check on what's going on in the chat. And Pepsi Pack saying Barcelona signed Gundogan. There you go. It's a serious club there. Early Doors says Pepsi Pack, yeah, 2-year deal, so they will come in for Rice now. Pepsi Pack, Man United after Rice now, Early Doors. Yeah, I see that. Pepsi, not too sure who I'd want as a player, Maguire or McTominay. Arsenal Forever, 22 likes, smash the likes up and subscribe to Warren's Team Talk and Diesel Arsenal, Early Doors TV and Long Hair Jetty. Well said, Arsenal Forever. Yeah, please make sure you do that and all those things that Arsenal Forever's just mentioned. Thank you for doing that, Arsenal Forever. Early Doors Football, legend Arsenal Forever. Yeah, he certainly is. I hit the like, says Ange. Thanks very much, Ange. Lovely of you. Thank you. Long Edge Yeti, BBC building has a pedo statue on the front of it. How does nobody see it? BBC stands for buggering British children. Been going on for years. It's shocking, isn't it? Absolutely shocking. I can't understand why they haven't taken that statue down. It's disgusting. Arsenal Forever says Rice is the only one who is proven and immediately improves us. The others have potential, but potential is meaningless. It's reached, and until it's reached, and that could take time. We need more top level players now. 100%. Long Air Jetty, Arsenal Forever. I said before you will sign one good one, and that's just maybes. Arsenal Forever. Warren, our ambition died when we knocked down Highbury. Mate, you're not wrong. Early Doors. Warren, you talk about conspiracy theories every time you talk about Arsenal. Exactly. Early Doors. Totally agree on that. Long Edge Yeti. Pepsi Pack. After mid-table players, not acceptable. Oh, yeah, no, it's not acceptable, mate. Arsenal Forever, Long Hair Jetty, absolutely like Shy Havertz. Yes, 100%. Arsenal Forever, thanks for promoting me, means a lot. You're 100% welcome, and I feel the same about you as Arsenal Forever, and I'm going to be promoting you on my channel too soon. Arsenal Forever, Long Hair Jetty, no problem, mate. Right, so let's get back on with it. And so the police, therefore, soon began to favour the idea that the killing had been carried out by a crazed individual acting on an opportunist basis. This assumed profile of the perpetrator led to focus on George. Then, in a cold case review by the police after 2008, concluded that Dando was killed by a professional assassin in a hard contact execution. So, a contact shot is a gunshot wound incurred while the muzzle of the firearm is in direct contact with the body at the moment of discharge. Contact shots are often the result of close-range gunfights, suicide, or executions. Pressing a gun against her head would have acted as a suppressor, muffling the sound of the shot and preventing the killer from being splattered with blood. Right, okay, so we're going to now look at the Yugoslav connection. In early 1999, the UK stroke NATO were part of NATO's Operation Allied Force in the Kosovo War, opposing Serbia, and this operation involved the bombing of the Radio Television Serbia RTS headquarters in Belgrade just 3 days before Dando was killed. RTS was seen as the key main propaganda tool for Serbian leader Slobodan Milosevic. So why is Kosovo so important to Serbia? The land of Kosovo is where the Serbian nation started its existence, and some of the holiest shrines of the Serb Orthodox Church are in Kosovo. The Serbs were defeated by the Ottoman Sultan Murad I in 1389, a battle which is still widely commemorated in Serbia. And despite demographic changes, most ordinary Serbs view Kosovo as their Jerusalem, a place which should never have been surrendered. At the beginning of the 20th century, the Albanian nation was scattered throughout the southern part of the Balkans, and in the early part of the 20th century, they started demanding independence. However, they faced opposition to the wishes from the great European powers, and Britain in particular, because they wanted to maintain the unity of the Ottoman Empire. The European powers finally consented to an independent Albania, but they sought to limit the frontiers of the Albanian state, and as a consequence, many ethnic Albanians were left in the neighbouring states. In 1912, Serbia was occupying Kosovo, and by the end of the First World War Kosovo had been incorporated into Yugoslavia. During the Second World War, the province was annexed to Greater Albania, then an Italian colony, and the ethnic Serbs suffered terribly. Now, I can tell you, I used to work with a Serbian guy, and I remember he used to get really passionate about this Kosovo issue. And he said to me once that no Serb would ever accept that Kosovo should be separate to Serbia. But it is now. So there you go. But I remember him getting really upset and passionate about it. So it just goes back up what this thing I found about Serbia's connection with Kosovo. So let's get back into the chat. See if there's anything here. Longhead Yeti says, what happened in Nottingham the other week? I'm tired of reading that the police knew this person was a problem but did nothing. It's modern society for you, mate, unfortunately. They're probably worried about getting done for, harassing people or whatnot. I watched a lot of serial killer stuff, and the amount of times some didn't do their jobs, leading to someone losing their life, is shocking. There you go. You see, it happens all the time. Right, so let's move on. So what was the connection to the murder of Jill Dando? So immediately after the Dando killing, a number of telephone calls were allegedly made to the BBC and other media outlets claiming responsibility for the killing on behalf of Serb groups. For example, in one of these calls, it's alleged that the caller said, "Re the murder of journalists. Tell your Prime Minister." In Belgrade, 15 killed, so 14 more to go. And in another call received by the BBC from an unknown man, who it is believed may have been Eastern European, by 3 p.m. on the day of Dando's murder, only hours after she was publicly pronounced dead at 1 p.m. It is believed that the man was referring to the NATO bombing of the headquarters of Serbia's public broadcaster, Radio Television of Serbia. The bombing had happened on the 23rd of April 1999, and it left 16 employees of RTS dead including a number of prominent journalists, and many have speculated that Dando, who at this stage had been the main face of the BBC, was killed in retribution for these deaths. These calls stated that the murder was revenge for the NATO bombing campaign in Serbia and threatened further killings. These calls were not judged wholly credible and may have been hoaxes. And this theory about the murder of Jill Dando having a connection to the UK's involvement in the Kosovo War was one of the proposed theories put forward by the defence team during the trial of Barry George in 2001. So, at George's first trial, his defence barrister Michael Mansfield suggested that Dando's earlier presentation of an appeal for aid for Kosovo Albanian refugees fleeing ethnic cleansing in the Balkans, live on TV 3 weeks before her murder, may have attracted the attention of Bosnian Serb hardliners. He then went on to propose that the Serbian warlord Arkan had ordered Dando's assassination in retaliation for the NATO bombing of the RTS headquarters, which had left 16 employees of RTS dead. This view was also reported by the British National Criminal Intelligence Service in 2019, who had given an intelligence report to the Dando murder inquiry, claiming that the murder was in retaliation for the RTS bombing, and Zelichko Arnautovic, known as Arkan, had ordered the killing. The report highlighted a possible connection between the bullet used to kill Dando and bullets used in assassinations in Germany, namely handmade markings found on them. So, in addition, Slavko Kurovica, an opposition journalist, was with his partner Branka Pripa, who is a historian, author, and former director of Belgrade's historical archives at the time, that he was assassinated outside his home in Belgrade just a few days before Dando's murder, and the method used in both cases was identical. Then in 2012, Branko Pripa said that Dando had become a target for Serbian warlords after presenting a BBC appeal on behalf of Kosovan Albanian refugees driven from their homes by militias backed by Yugoslav President Slobodan Milosevic. Then, just one day after the murder of Jill Dando, Tony Hall, the then BBC head of news, had to go into police protection after receiving a death threat from a man over the phone. The caller claimed to be a Serbian activist and declared that he had killed Dando and that Hall would be next. In 2019, 4 men of the Serbian Secret Service were convicted of this murder. Bob Whiffenden, an investigative journalist who claimed that he had been contacted by someone from military intelligence who told him that the murder was committed by a Serbian terrorist, advanced the view that a Yugoslav group was behind the Dando killing, and in various newspaper articles contested all the groups on which the police had dismissed this possibility. So it was also been alleged that the notorious Serb warlord and underworld boss Lijko Arnautovic, otherwise known as Arkan, had put out a contract on the then BBC Director General Sir John Burt, so as a consequence, his security was stepped up, and so the target was switched to the unguarded Jill Dando. Arkan was shot and killed 9 months after Dando died, while the only other Serb believed to have been named in the 2014 police cold case review insisted he was not hired to kill the presenter. Speaking under the pseudonym Milan Mitrovic, he told the Mail on Sunday, "I had been implicated in other things in my life, but never in the murder of an innocent woman. It wasn't nice being accused of such a heinous crime." So, he confirmed that he had been questioned by Scotland Yard detectives years ago, but he said the stamps in his passport proved that he was in Macedonia on the date of Dando's death. Detectives investigating Dando's murder also received a tip-off saying Serbian criminals based in the UK carried out the hit under orders from the Serbian regime. Right, so before we move on, I just want to go back into the chat. So here we go. Long-haired Yeti says, even Yorkshire Ripper, if police did their jobs, he would have been caught sooner. Early doors, yeah, and I think he was caught by accident, wasn't he? That was the thing. Early doors says, long-haired Yeti, that was shocking what happened there. Too much of it going on and lack of police intervention. Tired of tired of reading it. Early doors, to be honest, says long-haired Yeti. Early doors says totally understand that Yeti. Yeti says I think Dando was a BBC paid London gangster hit, and I don't get why he grabbed her though. Just shoot. Why grab her and pull her down when you can just take the shot? Apparently, the argument is because the person who murdered her it's alleged they think that he placed the gun right next to her head like that, and by doing that it would muffle the noise of the gun so people wouldn't hear the shot. But yeah, so maybe that was why. Why guess if you pull a person down, less struggle plus gun to the temple makes less noise. Yeah, that's it exactly. Not saying I'm an expert, just guessing really, Yeti, says early doors. Yeah, and that's what kept coming out when I was doing this show. There's that was the way that she was murdered. Long Edge Yeti says early doors football, yeah, paid hitman, just take the shot, then run off. Exactly like that James Bond film recently. That reminds me of it. And Jill, the woman standing there, and they put James Bond's on the train, and it's about to go through a tunnel, and his accomplice is going, "I can't see if I've got a clear shot," and the woman in the MI5 or MI6 office is going, "Just take the bloody shot." And the woman does take the shot, and she hits James Bond, and he ends up falling into a big lake. But then it makes it too obvious. It was a hit. It was a hitman who had a contract killing Yeti. You only take a woman down if you're getting to do something else. Maybe he slipped. I don't know. Yeah, possibly, says early doors. And long edge, yeah, he says you might be right, early doors. Yeah, well, we're going to look at that in a little while as well. So let's move on. So make sure, guys, you subscribe to this fella's channel. Diesel Arsenal, absolute top bloke, lovely fella, and his streams are legendary. They really are. He just goes on and on and on, but he's absolutely fascinating. He talks 100% facts. He's completely honest and about what he's saying. There's no script. He just says what's on his mind and what's in his heart. And I really rate the fella. I think he's a top bloke, and I really, really like him. So he talks about football, in particular Arsenal. He talks about TV, life in general, and he has me coming on doing streams about the paranormal and conspiracy theories, stuff like that. So yeah, make sure you keep your eyes open, because um, there'll be another one soon, and I'll be doing another Q&A soon as well. So make sure you come and check that out. I just need to talk to Diesel about it. Also, make sure that you come and subscribe to my channel, Warren's Team Talk. My memory is shocking, so I'm not able to do stuff without being prepared. And I always do slides like I've done tonight, and it helps me to remember what I want to say and make sure that I don't forget what I want to say. It's like a bit of a memory prompt as well. So yeah, come and check me out. I talk about football in general. I talk about Arsenal. Talk about all sorts of things to do with football. So make sure you come and check me out. Right, so let's move on. So, however, we're talking now about this Serbian connection. However, no solid evidence has ever been produced to prove the Serbian connection, and the prosecution in the 2001 trial, Barry George, dismissed it as utter nonsense. However, lawyers being paid to prove the guilt of Mr. George wouldn't agree that this theory was a serious and plausible explanation, as it would have likely helped to destabilise the case that they were attempting to build against Mr. George. I mean, it just, that comment is just ridiculous, I really think. Also, the police were unconvinced by the theory for a number of reasons, not least because these days 3 days hardly seemed sufficient time to plan a hit on Dando. Well, that is true, and I think that too. I think it's not enough time. Many others dispute the theory, including John Simpson, the BBC World Affairs editor. He was in Belgrade covering the NATO bombing campaign at the time of Dando's death, and believes he would have been an easier target than Dando back in England if Arkan or anyone in the regime had wanted to kill a prominent BBC journalist. And I agree with that as well. Others have called into question the fact that the killing was never claimed publicly by a credible source, something that would have been the case if it were a politically motivated attack. For me, possibly the strongest argument against the Serbian theory is in an analysis of the evidence presented to police in May 1999, when Dr. Adrian West, one of Britain's foremost forensic criminal psychologists, also questioned why, if Dando's murder was politically motivated, there had been no credible public claim of responsibility. But even for me, that isn't a particularly strong argument. It is probably the biggest argument against the Serbian connection, but I don't think it's particularly a strong argument. Bob Whiffenden, the journalist who specialises in miscarriages of justice cases, believes that the Serbian hitman theory still holds up. In an article for The Guardian before George's first and unsuccessful appeal, Whiffenden wrote of the short time after the airstrike. The murder certainly hadn't been planned and carried out in just 3 days, but the police did not examine the theory in its broader. The police did not examine the theory or its broader context, or seriously consider that it might have been planned weeks in advance. On 11th of April, Milosevic began striking back at his perceived enemies in the media. Slavko Kurushvili, the owner and editor of the independent newspaper, Divishny Telegraph, who had been critical of Milosevic and his government, was shot dead outside his home in central Belgrade. Dando was killed on the 26th of April at 11:09, and the next morning, Jill Dando was killed on the 26th of April, and at 11:09 the next morning, a caller to BBC TV Centre said yesterday, "I call you to tell you to add a few numbers to your list, because your government, and in particular your Prime Minister Blair, butchered 17 innocent young people. He butchered, we butcher back." The first one you had yesterday. The next one will be Tony Hall, Chief Executive for BBC News and responsible for coverage of the Kosovo conflict. Hall was given police protection and told Whiffington he never found out whether the threat was a hoax or not. And as to the gunman's identity, one suggestion was Zelishko Raznotrovic, the warlord known as Arkan, was indicted in 1997 for war crimes in The Hague. He was killed in Belgrade in 2000. The murder could have been the work of a two-man team, suggests Whiffington, and the killer may have flown out of the country that afternoon. As to why the Serbs never claimed the hit, Wolfenden said, "In 60 years there has not once been a claim of responsibility for an assassination carried out by Eastern European secret services." Well, that's interesting. That really is interesting. So, before we look at Jill Dando's legacy, Early Doors Football TV says Warren does great content and his Saturday afternoon scores are legendary. Yeah, I love that Saturday afternoon show, and that will be back come the start of the season. Yeah, I forgot to mention that. Every Saturday during the football season, I do a show that starts 3 o'clock on a Saturday, and I'll keep you updated with what's going on in football matches all over the United Kingdom. So make sure you come and check that out when the season starts, because it is an absolute laughter show. It's a very light-hearted look at football and whatnot. So it's great fun, a lot of banter and a lot of fun to be had. And Longhead Yeti said, "Police are on the payroll. Let's face it. Look how they beat up peaceful protesters when the bullshit pandemic was going on." 100%, mate. Arsenal forever. Barcelona agreed deal to sign Gundogan from Man City. Guarantee Man City will slap down 100 million in cash for Declan Rice. Yeah, just wait and see. I'm telling you, that will definitely happen. Arsenal forever. And this will go down as another benchmark on the Edu Gaspar shit show. Early Doors Football TV, Arsenal forever, Barcelona saying Gundogan on a free. That's great business. Long-haired Yeti, Arsenal forever. You should have been signing Gundogan, to be honest. Another cast off, a bloody good one, says Long-haired Yeti. Right, okay, so let's look at Jill Dando's legacy. After Jill Dando's death, her co-presenter Nick Ross proposed the formation of an academic institute in her name, and together with her fiance Alan Farthing, they raised almost £1.5 million. So that's good to know. The Jill Dando Institute of Crime Science was founded at University College London on the 26th of April 2001, the second anniversary of her murder. And the BBC set up a bursary award in Dando's memory, which enables one student each year to study broadcast journalism at University College Falmouth. Sophie Long, who was then a postgraduate, had grown up in Western Supermare and is now a presenter on BBC News, gained the first bursary award in 2000. In 2007, Western College opened a new university campus on the site of the former Broader Oak Sixth Form Centre, where Dando studied. The Sixth Form building has been dedicated to her and named the Jill Dando Centre. Right, okay, so let's look at some more theories. So the gangland killing. First appearances, the killing of Dando seemed to have all the hallmarks of a professional gangland hit because of the fact that it was claimed that there was a single shot, the muffled sound of the gun, and the clean escape in broad daylight had all the trademarks of an assassin. And in and in and and an intelligence report named two men from one of London's most prominent crime families. Mark Williams Thomas, an ex-Surrey police officer who was an investigative journalist famous for exposing Jimmy Savile as a paedophile, recently claimed that an anonymous hitman had told him that he knew the criminal behind the killing, but was too afraid to publicly name him. The anonymous hitman was shown a list of 100 names that Williams Thomas had been given by police investigating Dando's murder, and the anonymous hitman said, "There are names here that I recognise, and there's one in particular that stands out to me, but I wouldn't identify that person because it's very dangerous. I'm sure that they would come after me." Williams Thomas further added that after investigating the case himself and after trawling through 52,000 documents made available to Mr. George's defence team during his second trial, Mr. Williams Thomas said that he had found an intelligence report naming two London men as having acted for a major organised crime gang. The pair were said to have broken the murder weapon into four pieces, which they then dumped into a canal on the gang's territory. The intelligence report, however, was less than conclusive. It also stated that one of the men was subsequently identified, but detectives could find no link to the organised crime gang. The other man was seemingly never found. He believed that Dando was killed by a professional He believed that Dando was killed by a professional on the orders of a London-based mob boss. My theory is that Jill was gunned down on the orders of a London underworld Mr. Big to send out a direct bloody message to others. Do not take on organised crime. Jill, Mr. Williams Thomas added, may have signed her own death warrant through her work on Crime Watch. Later, in an interview on a British TV show called This Morning, Williams Thomas added, "I'm very confident the killer or the person who organised the killing is in that inquiry team database." There are also other reasons to be at least skeptical when it comes to all the theories suggesting Miss Dando was murdered by a hitman. It was not as if the police ever refused to consider the possibility of criminals seeking violent revenge for Miss Dando's Crime Watch work. During their investigation, they looked into and discussed up to 30 people with clear reason to resent Crime Watch. Convicted contract killers were also visited in jail and questioned about likely suspects before the possibility of a revenge hit was rejected by police. Another potential problem with this hitman theory is why criminals would seek revenge on the TV presenter when the more obvious targets would be the actual grass or the cop who did the hard work of cracking the crime. And outside the realm of TV and film, there has to be at least a question mark over whether a professional assassin would really be happy to assume that his first shot had killed their target. Certainly, the defence in George's 2001 trial also believed that Dando's work on Crime Watch could have well been the reason she became a target, with the defence barrister claiming plainly an aggrieved individual had believed that this programme was itself providing an effective aid to police investigation and needed to be curtailed might consider, however misguidedly, that a literal warning shot across the bows was required. However, both the Crime Watch link and the professionalism of the attack have been called into question. So, firstly, the spent cartridge from the single shot was left at the crime scene, something a professional would never ever do. The weapon used was also believed to have been something like a modified starting pistol or reactivated firearm with a low muzzle velocity, again something a professional would not normally use. The location and time of the attack also had too many variables for a professional to consider. The fact that Dando spent most of her time at her fiance's house and very little at her own place meant that her house was hardly the most reliable location to find her. Then there is the report prepared by the highly experienced Dr. West a month after the murder. This suggested the killing was actually not as professional as it initially seemed. Although the killing appears to have been carried out proficiently, wrote Dr. West, an obvious contradiction is that the shell casing has been left at the scene. A professional who knew what he was doing would not have allowed this to happen. Forensic examination of the shell casing and bullet suggested the murder weapon was something like a modified starting pistol or a reactivated firearm with a low muzzle velocity, not the kind of gun you would normally associate with a professional hitman. Now, stalker and obsessed fan. Before we get into that, I'm just going to go into the chat again. And Longhaired Yeti said, if you don't get Rice, you should riot NGL. Mate, this fan base will never do that. I don't want Rice going there. Even West Ham realised that the add-ins Arsenal are demanding are unrealistic. Sorry, Long, says Early Doors. Even though what I've said, I've convinced myself that it isn't gangland. They don't push people down, they just shoot, says Longhaired Yeti. Longhaired Yeti also says, agreed, I see it happening because they won't mess about with silly little bids. They will just drop the big bid, says Longhaired Yeti, if they want him, like they did with Grealish. Early Doors says, agree, Long-haired Yeti. Now Gundogan gone. They need a replacement, and Kovacic is not the answer. Long-haired Yeti says, if you was Rice right now and Arsenal and City wanted you, who would you choose realistically? Exactly, Long-haired Yeti. I'd choose City, 100%. Of course I would. And Early Doors says, Spurs agree initial fee of 17 million from Empoli goalkeeper Vicarios. Early Doors. City is the obvious choice if you want to win things. 100%, mate. Right, okay, so let's get back into this. Stalker obsessed fan. One of the earliest theories adopted by the police was that a stalker or an obsessed fan had killed Dando, and it is well known that Jill Dando had been harassed by a fan for a year before she was killed. Shortly before her death, Jill Dando had announced her engagement to Alan Farthing. Could this have been the reason why she was attacked? Her stalker trying to prevent her from marrying someone else. Certainly, a man was seen multiple by multiple witnesses loitering around Dando Street the night before her murder and on the morning that she was murdered. Also, in the week that she was killed, she appeared leather clad in a provocative Radio Times cover shoot, and at the time, many thought that this may have tipped a stalker or an extreme fan over the edge. The only certain sighting of, and I mentioned that earlier, didn't I? The only certain sighting of the killer, a 6 foot, 183 centimetre white man aged around 40, came from Richard Hughes, Dando's neighbour, who said he heard a surprised cry from the presenter, like someone greeting a friend, but he heard no gunshot. This statement has led some to suggest that Dando knew her killer. In 2008, The Guardian reported that she'd been irritated by a number of obsessive fans. The seemingly opportunistic nature of her killing might well make this one one of the strongest theories. A stalker, rather than a hitman, is more likely to use a makeshift weapon and attack someone outside his or her front door in broad daylight. The prosecution in the 2001 trial used this theory as the basis of their case against George, stating, unusual as they may be, there are some cases where there is no single motive. How could there be a reason for killing Jill Dando? Sadly, not everyone in the world is rational, logical, and sensible. There is a dark, complex side to some people's minds which causes them to act in a dreadfully destructive way for no reason, no rational reason. On the flip side of this theory, no famous person has ever been killed by a stalker or an obsessed fan in the UK, and the police did identify, question, and eliminate 140 people who have been flagged as being obsessed or having an unhealthy interest in Dando. Right, so listen, guys, this guy, Mr. Diesel Arsenal, he's the one. He's responsible for allowing me to do these streams for you. So please make sure you show him some love and put a like on the video for him. Also, please make sure you subscribe to his channel, and also make sure you go and watch some of his content. He does brilliant stuff. He really does. And when he gets going, there's no stopping him. He's unbelievable. He doesn't have a script. It's just all from the heart, and he speaks 100% facts. You're not going to get any nonsense with this fella, let me tell you. And he's just like very, very talented man. And the fact that he's only got the amount of subs he has is disgusting, in my opinion. He should be having way, way more than what he's got. But there you go. That's life, I suppose. But yeah, he does stuff about TV. He does stuff about football, in particular Arsenal. And like I say, as you can see, he has me come on here talking about the paranormal and conspiracy theories and stuff like that. So please make sure you subscribe to Diesel Arsenal. Make sure you share his content around. You put likes on the videos you watch, put comments in for him, all that sort of stuff, because he's a top fella. Honestly, he's absolutely superb. Also, please come and make sure you subscribe to my channel every Saturday during the football season. As I mentioned a little while ago, thanks to being reminded by Early Doors Football TV, I do a show every Saturday during the season where I follow all the results as they come in and just follow the action on a Saturday afternoon as it unfolds. Tell you about all the action that's going on in the games that are going on up and down the whole of the United Kingdom. It's just a massive opportunity to have a bit of banter and a bit of a laugh while the football's going on. It's really good fun. I really enjoy doing it. So please come and check me out. And I do lots of other stuff as well. So come and check out my channel and see what you think. Give me a like, give me a sub, and share it around for me. That would be fantastic. Thank you. So there is also a theory about mistaken identity. Now, according to papers submitted to a Paris court relating to a case involving the French fashion mogul Gerard Marie and the former boss of the elite modelling agency, who was being investigated over alleged sexual assault and rape involving at least 11 women, it was alleged that BBC journalists may have been murdered in a case of mistaken identity. And that's Gerard Marie, the elite modelling agency mogul. And Lisa Brinkworth went undercover to expose sex crimes in the fashion industry for the BBC's McIntyre Undercover series in 1998. Lisa Brinkworth alleged that she was assaulted by Marie after a dinner with friends, an assault that was witnessed by Donald McIntyre and others. She claimed that she was discouraged by the BBC from taking legal action against the renowned fashion agent, and according to the Times, Brinkworth was kept in safe houses for years after the show was broadcast. It was then alleged that the Marie had hired a Russian hitman to murder the journalist. And similarities between Lisa Brinkworth and Jill Dando. Lawyers argue that Dando's killer may have mistaken her for Brinkworth because of the similarities in their appearance, occupation, and because they both lived in the same area of West London. The pair shared other connections. For example, Dando's fiance was Brinkworth's doctor. The documents also reference a conversation witnessed by former elite executive Omar Harfouch, said that the Daily Mail, in which Marie said the Daily Mail. Let me say that again. The documents also reference a conversation witnessed by former elite executive Omar Harfouch, said the Daily Mail, in which Marie ordered a member of the Russian mafia to deal with the problem. Shortly thereafter, a BBC journalist, Jill Dando, was shot dead in April 1999. The documents filed at the Judicial Court of Paris state, according to the paper, they also claim that a source told a French journalist that in 1999, Marie had boasted of having paid gangsters to intimidate a BBC employee. The evidence was passed to Scotland Yard, which said detectives would always expose any new information that may help the investigation, added the Mail. So the next one is about the IRA, the Irish Republican Army. The Mirror put forward a theory that senior paramilitaries from the IRA chose Dando as a target because of her links to police through her work presenting Crime Watch. Apparently, a letter was found admitting to the killing among the 52,000 documents that were made available to Barry George's legal team during his second trial. In the letter, Wayne Aird, who was serving life for killing a man 2 months after Dando's death, confessed to being part of an establishment cover-up and said that the IRA was being allowed to get away with the murder to avoid harming the Northern Ireland peace process. Not sure I really believe that, to be honest, but there you go. paedophile ring. In 2014, a former colleague of Dando's came forward and said that she was trying to expose a VIP paedophile ring just months before her death. According to the Daily Express, the source said that Dando raised concerns to her BBC bosses about allegations of sexual abuse happening at the corporation. The source said, I don't recall the names of all the stars now, and I don't want to implicate anyone, but Jill said they were surprisingly big names. But the BBC has said it had seen nothing to substantiate these claims. Joe, the Spanish barman. Now, a report from the now defunct National Crime Intelligence Service suggested Dando's murder could be traced back to a gunman called Joe, who worked in a bar in Spain and had links to murderer Kenneth Noy. Noy was sentenced to life in prison for a 1996 road rage killing with the help of a Crime Watch pill. The report said Joe runs a bar in Tenerife frequented by leading expat criminals. He's described as a frustrated gangster reputed to owe money to Kenny Noy. There's been talk Joe had been keen to rehabilitate his reputation with gangster creditors. The Daily Mirror said that Joe allegedly came to the UK specifically to carry out the crime, although it appears that Joe was never traced. So once again, people, please make sure you go and subscribe to Diesel's channel, put likes on all these videos, make sure you share his content around. The guy, honestly, if you're not subscribed to Diesel's channel, you really are missing out, because it is top quality. It really is. And he told me earlier today that he was planning to do epic rant soon about Arsenal Football Club. So make sure that you look out for that, because I'm telling you, I've seen his rants and he really goes to town. So make sure you check him out. He's a top fella, lovely fella, 100% genuine. There's no nonsense or shenanigans with him. It's just 100% straight as a wall, dyed in the wall, straight up and down geezer. So you'll love it. You'll love it. Also, please come and subscribe to my channel, Warren's Team Talk. I do stuff about football in general and Arsenal. So please come and check out my channel, subscribe to my channel, and put likes on all my videos. Put comments in as well. And on my channel, I've got playlists about different things that I talk about. So come and check those out and whatnot. So let's move on. What? Okay, so I'm not talking about Jill Dando's personal life again. This is where I tell you what I think. So I'm just going to get in and tell you what I think. So this was an extremely interesting one to look into. And after looking into it, I think it's pretty safe to say that the conviction of Barry George was obviously a massive mistake. And I believe it only happened because the police were under incredible pressure to secure a conviction for the cold-blooded murder of a much-loved and high-profile TV presenter who was the archetypal girl next door. Of the other theories that I saw, I think we can safely rule out the following. The IRA. The government were happy for the IRA to get away with this one, so it wouldn't harm the peace process. Theory, which I find fanciful at best. Right, before we go any further, I just want to quickly go through these chats. Jesus. Right. Longhead Yeti says it's so sad that Arsenal used to have a big team mentality. Now they have penny pinchers. Yeah, that's true. Ain't no stalker, says Longhead Yeti. Longhead Yeti says major coincidence he chose to get her when she was unveiling things. Early Doors says uh, Arsenal today are not a big team anymore. Sorry to say it, Arsenal fans, but it's true. You know, you're 100% right, Tony. 100% right. Um, Agreed, says Longhead Yeti, and it saddens me, to be honest. It certainly saddens me, that's for sure, and it angers me as well. That's the problem with modern day owners. Some are serious, and others are just there to make money. And I think the latter is the case with Arsenal. Longhead Jetty, we haven't been anywhere for 23 years and we still feel it and it's still demanding. Yeah, exactly. So you should. Early Doors says great stream tonight, good content, and it's a case that still hasn't been solved 100% and probably never will do. Longhead Jetty, I'm West Ham and we know exactly what we are. And Longhead Yeti says, awesome stream, loved it. Big up Ron and big up Diesel. Had a stream with him and loved his passion. Exactly, exactly. He is very, very passionate and he's a top man. Longhead Yeti says, I like West Ham, just not keen on the support. The cat beater gets what a fucking coward, animal lover. Longhead Yeti, I think that was disgusting what happened with that cat. It really was. Every West Ham game I watch, I want him to get a career-ending injury. NGL. Longhead Yeti, BBC really went into detail to pin everyone else. That's my thoughts. You are a top fella as well, says Longhead Yeti. Early doors football. Warren need Diesel, you and Terry together on a stream. Now that would be something to watch. Oh my god. No, the problem is if I get on a stream with Terry and he starts all this Arteta nonsense, I will lose my rag with him. And when that happens, I find it difficult to concentrate. And I think that's why he does it. I really do. Because he knows that he has that effect on people and he uses it to knock them off course. That's what I think. And early doors football says, Warren, I couldn't stop laughing at your video of Arteta and the PSG move. That was so funny, mate. That was the reason I did it. It wasn't because I wanted to highlight the fact that Arteta had been linked. I just wanted to do like show how upset I was with him and how much I wanted him out. It had nothing to do with him being linked to PSG. It's just I wanted to do something like that just for the laugh. And Longhead Yeti says, when people love them and listen to them, they will always be at the hit list with the BBC. 100%, mate. So, next one on the list that I think we can safely rule out is Joe, the Spanish barman. This one just doesn't make any sense to me at all. I just don't get it. Maybe someone could put in the comments why it's considered and you know a theory that's worth consideration because I can't see it. The stalker struck obsessive fan partly because no famous person has ever been killed by a stalker or an obsessed fan in the UK. Gangland killing. If Miss Dando's murder was really down to a professional hitman hired by a mobster boss, then there are some major issues. One, the fact that the killer left too much evidence at the scene of the crime. A professional hitman would simply not do this. Second, the killer seems to have been happy to assume that Miss Dando was dead. Dead. A professional wouldn't have done that either. Three, why seek revenge on the TV presenter when the actual grass or the cop who did the hard work of cracking the crime been me a more obvious target. And that I do agree with that. I just think it'd be more logical to actually go to the person and kill the person and put you down. So what does this leave us with? So there's three: the mistaken identity theory, the paedophile ring, and the Yugoslav Serb connection. So let's go through them one by one. Right? The mistaken identity theory. This theory claims that Jill Dando was murdered in the case of mistaken identity because Gerard Marie, the former boss of the elite modelling agency, had taken out a contract on Lisa Brinkworth, who went undercover to expose sex crimes in the fashion industry for the BBC McIntyre Undercover series in 1998. And it is alleged that she was sexually assaulted by Gerard Marie and he then hired a hitman to assassinate her. This theory is highly plausible, in my opinion, for three reasons. One, Lisa Brinkworth and Jill Dando had similarities in their appearance. They lived close to each other in West London. In fact, I believe it was only a short bus ride between them, and in the same London borough, Hammersmith and Fulham. And three, they shared the same occupation. And last but not least, Dando's fiance was Lisa Brinkworth's doctor. Right, so the paedophile ring theory, right? Now, for those of you who know the ins and outs of the Jeffrey Epstein case, by the way, I did a video about that Jeffrey Epstein case on Diesel's channel there. So if you're interested in finding out what I think about that one, go and check that out because that is really, really interesting. We'll know that of the power and the contacts that the people involved in these paedophile rings are able to call upon and get support from, and how the evil tentacles of the people involved in these groups reach to the very highest levels of our societies: monarchs, presidents, prime ministers, celebrities, the whole lot. You also know how they are able to remove people or are seen as an irritant to them at seemingly the drop of a hat. So for me, this theory is a highly plausible one. Three, right, the Serb/Yugoslav connection. This for me is another highly plausible theory because Jill Dando had fronted an appeal on British television for aid for Kosovan refugees. And at the time, the UK and NATO were involved in NATO's Operation Allied Force in the Kosovo War opposing Serbia. This operation involved the bombing of radio television of Serbia RTS headquarters in Belgrade just 3 days before Dando was killed. RTS was seen as the key main propaganda tool for Serbian leader Slobodan Milosevic. The attack on RTS Serbia headquarters in Belgrade brought a lot of anger from Serbia and threats of reprisal, but I find it highly unlikely that 3 days would have been enough time to plan and launch a retaliatory attack on a high-profile British media personality. However, I do believe that Serbia would have had agents operating in the UK at the time, and I do not think it is beyond the realms of possibility that one of these agents could have gone rogue, or that a Serbian national living in the UK at the time could have been so enraged by Dando fronting the appeal for Kosovan refugees. And then on top of this, that the attack on the RTS headquarters in Belgrade could have led them to launch what they would have seen as a revenge attack on Dando. It should also be remembered what Dando's own cousin had said about how naive Jill Dando was about her own security, as well as the seemingly unprofessional nature of the attack on Jill Dando, i.e. the leaving of the gun cartridge at the scene of the crime, and the fact that the killer had seemingly gone off without checking whether their attack had been successful. So for me, out of the three, the most likely scenarios, and I think all three of them highly likely, to be honest, all three of them are highly likely to be true. I also haven't ruled out the possibility there may be a link between the paedophile ring theory and the mistaken identity theory. What the link is, I'm not sure, but I think that there may be one, especially in light of the Jeffrey Epstein saga. However, for me, the most likely scenario that Jill Dando's killing may have its roots in Serbia and the way that she supported the appeal for Kosovan refugees on BBC TV, and also the UK and NATO's role in the Operation Allied Force action in the Kosovo War. But I do not believe that it was state sponsored direct action, but rather a Serbian agent gone rogue or a Serbian national acting alone. So let's see. So this is what I discussed during the course of the show. We looked at Jill Dando's early life, her career, her personal life, her murder, the investigation, the case of Barry George, the lines of inquiry, the Yugoslav connection, Jill Dando's legacy, the gangland killing theory, the stalker stroke obsessive fan theory, the mistaken identity theory, other theories, and my thoughts. So that's it, guys. I hope you enjoyed the show. Thanks for watching. And remember, people, keep your eyes on the skies and stay curious. But yeah, thanks ever so much for watching. Before I go, I'm just gonna quickly go through all these chats. Longhead Yeti says, love this kind of stuff. Big up, Warren. Thank you, my friend. I'm really happy that you're enjoying it. Needs to be spoken about more. 100% it does, Longhead Yeti. And Longhead Yeti, interesting to me how it was all about to come forward, and then boom, a pandemic, keep us in fear, and we are pliable like Hitler did it. Warren, don't mind me saying this. Thoughts and prayers for those 5 souls that are missing near the Titanic. Just 13 hours of air left for them. Oh, God, those poor people. 100%, mate. Make everyone please say a prayer for those people tonight. Hopefully they can rescue them. But it's not looking good, is it? God bless them. Long-Edge Yeti, fear controls small-minded people. Yeah, 100%. And as Yoda says in Star Wars, and I know you're probably going to think I'm mad, but it's true what he said. Fear leads to anger. Anger leads to hate. Hate leads to suffering. There you go. And it's true, it does. And it's all satanic, and they are all fooling people to hide their tracks, says Long-Edge Yeti. And Long-Edge Yeti says the devil has power right now, but God will win. Hopefully, mate, 100%. But anyway, guys, thanks ever so much for watching. Please don't forget to subscribe to Diesel's channel. Also, don't forget to put a like on the video for me before you go. Please also come and check out my channel and give me a sub and put likes on my videos as well. I really appreciate that. Please take care of yourselves. Like I said, keep your eyes on the skies. Stay curious. Please look after all your friends, your families, your loved ones, and share some love and kindness around the world. And please say a prayer for all those poor people that are missing near the Titanic. Just 13 hours of air left. Poor people. God bless them. Anyway, guys, thanks ever so much. I'm going to go now. Take care of yourselves. and I look forward to seeing you all really, really soon. Take care. Thanks for watching. And also, if you've got any ideas about other topics you'd like me to cover on Diesel's channel, please leave it in the comments and I'll add it to the list. Thanks a lot, guys. Thanks for watching. Take care of yourselves. Bye for now.